All right, we're live. Here we go, Paula. We're back on our Thursday mornings. We said last week we talk about allergies, and we're here. We're going to talk about allergies. Allergies are a result of the response we have to many different foods, pollens, environment, just to name a few things. They can affect our respiratory system with wheezing. They can affect our mouth or our lips with swelling, our digestive tract with diarrhea, vomiting, stomach cramping, skin, we might get an itchy rash, dermatitis, our nose, it could be running. So those are maybe some of the symptoms you might be experiencing when you are experiencing allergies. There's different kinds of allergies, like food is a big one, but during the springtime, we're experiencing all kinds of different allergies. So today we're talking about those springtime allergies, not so much those allergies that are life-threatening like peanuts, or even intolerances like milk, or missing that enzyme, that lactase enzyme that we need to digest milk. We're not talking about those. Today we're talking about springtime allergies and how to survive that sniffy, headache, runny nose, those symptoms that show up when we're taking in too much pollen and too much of our environment. So Paula, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, this is a hot topic this week. I've been talking with people all week long because Minnesota, we have finally had some snow melt. We have finally had our mountains disappear, and that releases a whole slew of mold into the air. The trees are finally starting to bud, and different types of pollens and environmental things are happening. And yeah, it's overwhelming for people that are just suffering, like you said, that head and nose and throat and chest. And oh, it's finally beautiful, but they don't want to go out in it because it causes them more agony, which is, so ironic, so sad. We need to get out and enjoy that sunshine, but it holds a lot of people back that are suffering with allergies at this time of year. Most in a perfect state, when our body is perfectly healthy, we can fend off whatever is coming at us pretty well. Pollen, mold, environmental things. But when it's intensified, when it's a lot, it's harder for our bodies to handle it. And when our bodies are weaker, maybe our digestive system isn't great, maybe we eat a lot of processed foods and we're not really taking care of our body. Our body's not operating at optimum. So it's going to need even more help on the allergy symptoms and cures, right? So that plays a big factor in just the joy in your day and the quality of your life when all you can focus on is, oh, my head, and where's my box of Kleenex? I can't go anywhere without it. It changes your day and your activities when you should be able to get out and enjoy them.
So let's dig deeper. Let's talk about herbs, oils, foods, what are things that we need to be consuming? And I'm going to kick us off with honey. Many of you have probably already heard that if you use local honey, but have you ever asked the question why? Well, bees are out there and they're collecting those pollen from different plants in your environment. And that's why we want to use local honey. They're introducing it into the honey. And when we consume that honey allows our body to create a blueprint. It says, hey, what is this invader that I have a teeny tiny itty bitty small dose of in the honey? The body recognizes it as a foreign invader, and think like building a house. It creates a blueprint for how to handle those foreign invaders when we're exposed to it. So over time, when we consume that local honey, our body becomes stronger within its blueprint to deal with it when we're overexposed to it. So that works for some people if they're strong, if they have a strong immune system, if their body's ability to create that blueprint, ability to design a way to combat foreign allergens, that may work for you. But there's some other things too. Do you have any thoughts on the honey before we go to the next herb or oil?
Oh, we love the honey. I connect with a lot of local honey producers in my town so that I can get some of that great resources from them. My boys will just take a spoonful of honey and get that in their system and help soothe them. Personally, I love just warm water with that spoonful of honey stirred in and a drop of Thieves essential oil. It has healing properties for the throat. The honey is soothing, and I don't know, there's something just like makes me feel better to have a warm cup of something in my hand. Sometimes I do teas as well. Lisa, you do a lot more teas. What do you put in your tea?
Yeah, I want to, for oils, I have to say my favorite morning beverage is local honey with peppermint. And you just smell that and it's like it wakens up the brain. Who needs caffeine when I have that peppermint? So, and I know peppermint helps with increase the circulation. We get blood flow around the eyes. It helps to open up the throat. Sometimes we have tension in, the temple region when we're struggling with the allergens. And so increasing that blood flow to that space can relieve that tension, open up the throat, improve breathing. But you don't even need to take it just during allergy season. I use it in lieu of coffee, in lieu of caffeine. I get that jolt, that energy, that awakening, if you will, by using peppermint. And I know that's one of them that's listed. But your question was tea. And so I have to say my favorite, all-time favorite herb for antihistamine reaction is nettles. Stinging nettles grows in your neck of the woods prolifically. It is coming up right now when it's fresh and new in the springtime. It's vibrant. It works as a natural antihistamine within the system. So if we're experiencing some of those things happening, we can drink a tea with it. And again, combining that with the honey, the local raw honey, for me, that's the 1-2 punch. I don't need to look any further, but it tastes like grass. It kind of tastes like seaweed in a sense because it has all those minerals. It's rich in calcium. And so that's not how I like to start my morning. I can do that later in the day, or I can take it cold. I can chill it and take it cold on a hike to help keep the runny nose at bay. But I like to explore some other things earlier in the day. What's your next one? Herb or oil? Which way are we going?
Oh, throughout the day, with allergy season, the other thing I think of is soothing that raw nose. I love to use coconut oil, has a great healing property just to soothe the skin. Adding in some other oils is also helpful too. But what do you like to do for soothing that nose that's been draining and draining and the skin's getting raw? What do you like, Lisa?
I use shea butter a lot. I used to make a lot of my own creams and moisturizers, and now I'm more like a lazy herbalist. In fact, I'm just gonna, it's just raw. It's just shea butter. I just open it up and
Perfect.
I use it as my skin cream. I have these little lines here. They're called, some people call them anger lines. I call them, I earned these aging lines. So I use shea butter just on my face, dry skin, hands, straight up. You should mix it with some other things and add some, like maybe coconut oil or something to it. But typically for me, because I've struggled with skin cancer since my early 20s, if I can't eat it, I don't use it on my skin, because when we apply things to our skin, including essential oils, herbal, tinctures or herbal compresses, things that we apply to our skin, it goes into our skin, it's in our bloodstream, in 20 to 30 seconds in most cases. So what are you putting on your nose? Grab something like aloe, shea butter, coconut oil, olive oil, grapeseed oil, avocado oil, any of those things that you can eat. A dab will do you. Just touch it on there. It soothes it. It calms it down. And then think of those essential oils that also calm rashes, irritation, and aid in healing. And the one that comes to mind, two that come to mind really for sensitivity, are lavender and chamomile. Lavender is, both of those are recommended, in our baby books. Let me see here. I grabbed a cup. I have baby books, this is about essential oils for babies and herbs for babies. A Mother's Guide to Herbal Extracts is another one. Probably one of the first ones I ever used was Herbally Yours. So these are just some little inexpensive books. If you're going to want to jump into the world of essential oils and herbs, having some, backup, some information available to you to look it up. But lavender is in all of the baby books because it's soothing. I will do a caveat though, and you probably could speak to this, is make sure that the lavender is Lavandula augustifolia, because it doesn't have the high camphor count. When we use spike lavender or other types of lavender, away from Lavandula augustifolia, it can be higher in camphor, and camphor can actually burn our skin. So we wouldn't want to put that on already irritated places. So lavender, I'm hogging the screen here. So I'm going to let you talk about chamomile and how do we use chamomile for skin? Again, another one listed in all of the baby safe books. So it's safe for most people's skin. What about chamomile for that?
Yeah. The two that actually come to my mind are frankincense, lavender as well. Chamomile is also fantastic too. I would prefer to put chamomile on my chest. So again, with a little bit of coconut oil, or even put it on my feet as I sleep. Feet is a great place to put oils because it's the largest pores in your body. So it's very easy for the body to absorb it. Like Roman chamomile is probably the most effective for my body, but I don't always like the smell of it. So putting it way down by my feet is a great solution. Then my body can absorb it. I can get the benefits of it, but I don't have to really smell it, or I can slip some socks on so that I can just capture it there for the night while I'm sleeping, to help ease that. Or simply putting
a tea, using chamomile as our tea too. It's a twofer, right? It helps with allergies and with sleep, which you were talking about doing it before bed. But I'm going to throw in a caveat is if you have hay fever allergies, stay away from chamomile. It's the same family and it can aggravate rather than aid. So keep that in mind when you're using chamomile. So keep going, Paula.
Yes. Chamomile tea, I love, of course, in the evenings for relaxing. Again, some days I'm not crazy about the flavor or the taste, and that's where I can just simply add a little bit of citrus oil or something else to kind of brighten it up a little bit, make it more
palatable,
more exciting. I don't know. Just takes the flavor palette a little bit differently too. We talked a little bit about the aching head, like the allergy head, the pain and pressure in the sinuses, the headache that a lot of people are just suffering with
for sure
during allergy season. I, of course, love the cold compresses on my eyes, something cooling so that I can just help relieve some of that tension. But also, you mentioned the peppermint. Peppermint is one of those you have to be really careful not to get in your eyes. It will burn. You want to keep it away from your eyes. You want to dilute it. If you do get peppermint in your eye, putting more water is not the solution. You need a fatty oil. Exactly, Lisa. You need a fatty oil, like coconut oil, avocado oil, even olive oil, like whatever you have on hand, that will help flush it out of your eye. It seems kind of silly, but it will help calm it down much, much better. So I will put peppermint along the cheekbones here, and then along the temples here, making sure I'm not rubbing my eyes later, even an hour later. If you have peppermint on your hands, that's a difficult thing to do. So I love to put it in a roller so that I don't have it on my hands. Then I can just roll it along my cheeks, along my forehead, and then I'm not accidentally rubbing my itchy eyes, right, during that time.
So let's talk about that rollerball. We could do just peppermint, but we could do peppermint, lavender. You mentioned frankincense. I don't know that I would put chamomile in with that mixture because I, like you, don't care for the smell of the oil. I'll drink the tea all day long. I will put, chamomile flowers in my bathtub, but I don't want to be putting that anywhere near my nose because I'm not a fan of it. But if we were to create a formula in a rollerball specifically for this seasonal allergies that people are experiencing symptoms of, what should we include in a recipe with that? Peppermint, lavender?
Yeah, my favorite synergy is peppermint, lavender, and lemon. create a blend with the 3 of those as a great synergy, and then add the rest as your carrier oil in that roller bottle. It smells beautiful. So you might just want to wear it as your perfume, but it's also super helpful. I roll it on my chest. I can roll it under my nose, or use that all over my face, my neck. The only caution is lemon can be sun sensitive. So you want to be careful about putting lemon on your skin in an area that you're going to be exposed to sun in the next 12 hours. So if you're doing it at bedtime, fine, no problem. But it wouldn't probably do that first thing in the morning. And if you're headed out to spend the day outside, you might want to put that roller lower on your chest that maybe is not exposed to the sun, or get it on your feet or other areas of your body. So your body is going to absorb it. It circulates through your whole blood system within 20 minutes. So it's okay to put it, in a covered area away from your nose. You're still going to get the benefits in your body.
You
Still gonna
mentioned
get those-
frankincense, Paula. What's
Yeah.
the relevance for frankincense for an oil? You said lavender and frankincense was something early on, and we kind of passed over that. Why frankincense? And could we stick in frankincense instead of the lemon and
Absolutely.
avoid the risk of the sun sensitivity? So tell us more about
Yeah. Frankincense is great for all things skin. So at the time we were talking about the sore nose, frankincense is really healing for any type of skin concerns. I put that on, after I'm cleaning up the yard and all these branches, the scrapes, the cuts, the bumps, and frankincense helps with all of that too. But frankincense is also great to open up the respiratory system too. So great one for the chest. And even lavender can help with some of that too.
I have a secret to
makes
tell. I do use frankincense. It's y'all can't see it because I improved my view on here so you don't see as many of my wrinkles. But yeah, I use frankincense I have a roller ball that I use at night before I go to bed. And then as I mentioned, I've had skin cancer. And so I make my own sunscreen products using oils and different food grade oils and things that have that non-comedogenic effect where they don't clog your pores. And then they have some natural SPF in them, or natural screening ability. But frankincense, I would take that internally, and I don't recommend this, talk to a professional or aromatherapist or somebody before you do this. But early on, when I had skin cancer, I was using it to support my skin, both topically and internally, to try to manage some of that. I had a chemical exposure, and they said I'll have lifelong issues with skin cancer. And so I've looked over the years for holistic ways of healing it, and frankincense has been extremely powerful. And there's different kinds. There's Boswellia serrata, there's Boswellia cartera, and then there's another one too. Sacred frankincense is Boswellia. Help me that one. What's the Latin? Do you know the Latin on that one?
Not off the top of my head.
Sacred frankincense. That might be serrata, but the sacred frankincense, at least in the Young Living brand, is the most potent. It is the highest in sesquiterpenes, and it's quite powerful. And so depending on what type, again, what plant, what tree that is coming from, there's different levels of chemical constituents in it. And so I love the sacred frankincense. But I don't use that on a day-to-day basis because it's quite a bit more expensive. But I do use just Young Living's regular frankincense. And so it's more accessible. There's more trees, there's more availability from that. And we have to be careful not to over harvest, because these plants take a long time to grow. And I know Young Living gets theirs from the Middle East. And so when they harvest, they're always there planting new plants so that we have a steady flow of it. But there is a cost involved to do that. So the expense can be a factor. If you're buying cheap frankincense, I would look at the ingredients and question what's in it. So do you have any thoughts on frankincense? I'm kind of taking a little bit of a detour here, but I think it's important that people understand quality matters in how we harvest our herbs, where they come from, and same with our essential oils. So do you want to speak to that?
Right. Yeah, essential oils, there's a difference between ones that are just made for scent versus ones that are made for therapeutic body healing. And when you have something so pure as Young Living's frankincense, it's going to help with multiple things, right? We're talking about using it for skin, but it's also going to help that brain fog that, those sesquiterpenes really help calm and have that clarity so that you can get back into what you're trying to do before you were interrupted with these seasonal allergies, right? We still have stuff to do. We need to move on with our life, right?
Yeah. So quality matters. So depending on what you're looking for, make sure that you're using a good brand. We're sharing our experience with the ones we've used. They're not the only ones I've used. I've tried, I'm a big fan of Mountain Rose. I get a lot of herbs from them. And I've tried their oils. So there's multiple places that you can look for these. The reason that I stick with Young Living is the research and their seed to seal guarantee, their seed to seal promise. I like to know where my plants are coming from. And so I'm going to jump over to herbs for a second. We were talking a little bit about headaches and other things, other herbs that we could use to complement. So butterbur is an herb that helps with increased blood flow to the brain. Feverfew, gotu kola, those kinds of things can help increase blood flow, releasing the tension so that we can come back to and get focused. As I mentioned, nettles, but also alfalfa is another one in that allergy family because alfalfa has a really deep 50-foot, root system, and it's pulling minerals and it's pulling those vitamins and things from the soil. And so when we provide nutrients to our system becomes stronger and can combat the foreign invaders in it. And Paula, you kind of touched on that. Another one I like to use is bee pollen. We talked about honey, but bee pollen, and you introduce it slowly, a small bit at a time, and you can increase that bee pollen until you're getting the effect that you need. One last one I'm going to share today is eyebright. Eyebright grows where you are in the Midwest a lot, and it was a Native American herb that they used to increase circulation in this area. It helps with vision, but more importantly, it helps with allergies and sinuses. And so another herb we can use in teas or tinctures. How do we support? So I want to shift gears. So those are herbs, oils, and things. Let's jump into the digestive system. We only have a few minutes left. When our digestive system is functioning, we can eliminate the things that we no longer need. Toxins, garbage that we've put in, we want to get out, right? Because that's what helps all of our systems work better. Let's talk a little bit about the digestive system. Where do people start? How do we get the ball rolling, get the bowel moving when it comes to the digestive system?
Yeah, that's where really focusing on the nutrients that are in each of our foods really matters. We get a lot of nutrients from green leafy vegetables. We don't get a lot of nutrients from things that comes from a bag, a box, or highly processed food. Loses a lot of its nutrients, right? So when we can add in more veggies every meal, clean proteins, really focusing on things that give us multiple nutrients, it will change your gut health. It will change your energy level to have, like you said, Lisa, that natural energy so that we're not relying on caffeinated sources all day long.
So digestion, a couple of things for me when I think of digestion, I think of enzymes and I think of probiotics. When we are born, we have a finite number of digestive enzymes. When we use them up, all of a sudden we have things like acid reflux and my stomach aches and I can't digest, or my bowel movement's slow. I'm not getting my daily, going to the bathroom daily. I'm not having that daily bowel movement. So we can introduce enzymes and probiotics. And I'm not saying that you have to take it in a pill format. In your experience, Paula, what foods would you use, because you work in that field of nutrition and supporting people transitioning into delicious and nutritious foods? What foods help to support our digestive system? Besides greens, you mentioned greens.
Yeah.
Are there other things?
That's always my first answer, of course. Chia seeds are really helpful for getting things moving. Some of those, higher fiber foods that really help, but like oatmeal is a great one, but simple. most of the oatmeal that we're finding, if you're taking it from a packet and mixing it with hot water, it's full of sugar and other stuff. So, just simple forms of food can be really effective if your body can tolerate oats or whole grains or other things like that. Yogurts are also, fabulous. They don't have enough probiotics for us, but it's a great place to start. And fermented foods also really help support the digestive system.
So fermented food, let's give them more on that, because not everybody knows what that is. When you say fermented, what do you mean?
So my go-to is sauerkraut, and I never knew how easy it is to make. So simple. It's cabbage and salt and thyme. It's really so simple, and it can be so delicious when you make it yourself. Kombucha, like I don't know how to pronounce it,
yep.
but
I used to make it. Kombucha, yeah. Kimchi, kombucha, raw sauerkraut, yeah.
Kefir. Mm-hmm.
And an easy one, dill pickles. You can actually, my niece who was born with, she was born failure to thrive. Her intestines were turned inside out. She had to have a surgery at a very young age. She's addicted to pickles, and we could never figure out. She can sit and eat an entire jar of pickles. And so this was years ago, because she's now, I don't know, 11, 12 years old now, 11. So but she always wanted pickles. She'd go into the store and it's like all the kids are picking out candy and she'd find the pickles. Like her intuition knew the pickle juice helped soothe her digestive system, because pickles are fermented cucumbers. So pickles is another one. Pay attention to your kids, because they might just teach you a thing or two, right? Any other thoughts on enzymes or digestive system? Because when we get that system moving, everything else can start to fall into place. If we're not getting our digestive system moving, everything that we put in on top of it gets stuck. So when I was in practice, I'm a retired holistic health practitioner. The first thing I would focus on is, and people jokingly would call me the poop lady, because it was always a question. Even still today, friends come over and that our conversation always gets around to, how are your bowel movements? What do they look like? How often are they happening? So the reason that we're bringing this up when we're talking about allergies is because we have to get our elimination system working. We need to sweat it out. We need to have bowel movements. We need to make sure we're drinking good, clean sources of water, tea, things that are going to actually flush our systems of those allergens. So, any final thoughts here on enzymes or digestive system and getting our elimination process working?
Yeah, that is so true. And our body is so amazing how it gives us signs. It gives us feedback. But most of the time we're not paying attention, we're not listening. We want to ignore the poop stuff. We want to ignore all the other aches and pains, and we just want to feel great. Well, we can follow our bodies. We can drink that lemon water to help flush things through our system. We can pay attention. Did I have a bowel movement today or not? Like, if not, what am I doing about it? And really responding. And I think the biggest key is learning that your body has warning signs, attention signs, and alert signs, right? Most of us don't pay attention until we're getting the alert sign. But if we're responding and paying attention and really nurturing our body every day, it's going to make everything so much easier. Your days are going to be more joyful, and you'll feel so much more energized.
Perfect. I think that's going to be our wrap up. So we've given you a whole lot of lists of herbs and oils. You can always go back and replay this, pull out those pieces that we shared. If you have questions, put them in the comments. We are monitoring this all the time. And then lastly, I don't know if we talked about it, but what should we talk about next week? We'll be back here Thursday at 9 o'clock, Paula. What should we cover next week?
Oh, you tipped the iceberg on talking about bowel movements. Are we going there?
We can go there. I don't know. It's all part of that allergy process. It's all part of building a strong system so that you can function and have optimal health and enjoy your life. So next weekend, our next Wednesday or next Thursday, I think we're going to have the poop lady talk. We're going to go back into our bowel movements, our elimination system, pieces that are involved in it. How do we support it and how do we get things moving? Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next Thursday, same time on Facebook.